307 of the Trump administration. And as the president begins his Thanksgiving holiday, there is news tonight on key players and events in the overarching Russia investigation. First, we begin with former National Security Advisor and retired General Michael Flynn, who lasted in his job just 24 days before he was fired. Tonight, Julia Ainsley reports for NBC News that Robert Mueller is zeroing in on an associate of Flynn's named Bijan Kian, who was one of Flynn's business partners. According to this report, Mueller wants to know what role Kian played, if any, regarding the Flynn lobbying group's failure to disclose its work for foreign governments. Mueller's team has already questioned several people about Kian's lobbying work on behalf of Turkey. Subpoenaed emails also show him he joined Flynn at a meeting in September of 2016 with pro-Russia Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, Republican of California. As NBC News previously reported, that meeting, which was not disclosed when Flynn initially registered as a foreign agent, is under scrutiny by Team Mueller. Tonight's other report comes from Vanity Fair writer Howard Blum, and it's about the controversial Oval Office meeting back in May between Donald Trump, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and then Russian Ambassador to the U.S. Sergei Kislyak. A meeting that took place the day after former FBI Director James Comey was fired, a meeting from which American journalists were barred while members of the Russian press corps were allowed in. In an article called "What Trump Really Told Kislyak After Comey Was Canned," Blum writes about a covert Israeli mission to stop an ISIS bomb plot described to him by Israeli intelligence sources. That mission was then disclosed to the Russians by President Trump. Blum also writes in the article, quote, "There are some petulant voices in official Washington who insist that the president's treachery was deliberate, part of his longtime collaboration with the Russians. It is a true believer's orthodoxy, one which predicts that the meeting will wind up being one more damning count in an indictment that Robert Mueller, the special counsel, will ultimately nail to the White House door." With that, and on that ominous note, let's turn to our leadoff panel on a Wednesday night. Julia Ainsley, NBC News national security and justice reporter, whose byline we just referenced. Jill Wine-Banks is back with us, attorney, former assistant Watergate special counsel, and an MSNBC legal analyst. And Jeremy Bash, former chief of staff at the CIA and Pentagon, former counsel to House Intel. Jeremy, I'd like to begin with you. Talk about our alliance with Israel. Talk about its importance, how many shared secrets we have had over the years, and the danger if those shared secrets, including danger to humans on both sides, the danger if those shared secrets get out.
Well, Brian, America has almost no greater partner on the counterterrorism issues, on the counterproliferation issues in the Middle East than our democratic ally, Israel. We cooperate very intimately with them on signals intelligence collection, on human intelligence collection, on a range of missions that are very sensitive. We have a long history with them, and it's really predicated on trust. And the idea is that if they share their intelligence with us and our leadership, we won't share it with our adversaries, like the Russians, and possibly risk having it fall into the hands of the Iranians. And there were really two important details in this Vanity Fair article that you referenced earlier. First is that the Israeli operation, if the reporting is correct, was a very sensitive cross-border operation by Israeli commandos deep into the heart of ISIS-held territory, where they were conducting reconnaissance, and they collected a conversation about this ISIS bomb plot. And that's the information that Trump reportedly revealed to the Russians in the Oval Office in May. And the second, although it was further down in the piece, but is very interesting, is that career professionals at CIA warned Israeli Mossad officials before the inauguration, don't give your secrets to this president, to this administration, because he's under investigation for his close ties to Russia. He may spill those secrets to Russia, and it may fall into the hands of Iran.
And, Jeremy, the article kind of speculates toward the end he could have been trying to brag to the Russians. This could actually be a result of collusion and a freestanding relationship he had with them. But there's another unlisted reason, I suppose, should be listed among the possibles, and that is not knowing how the world works, thinking somehow he was speaking to the same team.
Yeah, it could be naivete, but it probably was negligence. And I think it overall shows a coziness with Russia, an eagerness to please that is very troubling.
Jill Wine-Banks, if you're a member of Mueller's team, this is just an article in Vanity Fair the night before Thanksgiving. What do you pull out of this? How do you read this?
I would say it's an indication of how much longer the investigation will have to continue, because it opens up some areas that I would want to pursue. I want to find out more details, talk to more witnesses, and one witness leads to another, and that leads to another. I think there's some reason to be fearful of what he did in terms of our relationship with the Israelis, but it also is with the rest of the world, because every other democracy is looking at the fact that he revealed these very secret and very important methods of the operation, and they will all be fearful of sharing intelligence with America because of that. So that's beyond perhaps Mueller's his jurisdiction, but I think even within it, we have to look at whether it was part of a collusion.
Julia, your superb reporting has given us another figure with a difficult-to-pronounce name, among other things. Can you describe his relationship to Flynn and just put it on the grid of overall importance, especially to Mr. Mueller?
So, Brian, I think the easiest comparison here is to look at how Rick Gates was to Paul Manafort. Bijan Kian is a similar person regarding Mike Flynn. Just like Rick Gates worked with Paul Manafort, Bijan Kian was part of Flynn Intel Group, was really kind of the front man, and he was setting up a lot of these meetings. A lot of people who worked with Flynn Intel Group over 2016 said they didn't even meet Mike Flynn himself, but they met Bijan Kian. He was the one setting up meetings like the one with Dana Rohrabacher. And his connections have sort of permeated through a lot of Washington circles. We know that he is one of the founders of the Nowruz Commission. They have a very opulent Persian New Year ball every year. He's someone who a lot of people know, but he's also sort of seen as this formidable figure. He really pushes for what he wants. And the fact that he was part of a group that did not disclose the $530,000 that they got through lobbying on behalf of the Turkish government is definitely of interest to Mueller, and the fact that that FARA filing, which came after the fact, still didn't include this Rohrabacher meeting. These are things that Mueller has been asking witnesses about lately, and these are the same questions that the grand jury is going to start asking about in the weeks to come. So he's really